In this tutorial, we are going to learn how to put a Turk's head onto a reed blank using the Vinoski Reed Winding machine. So let's get started. The first thing you want to make sure is that your bobbin holder is all set to go. And I would encourage you trying a bobbin holder first. You can use your hand like in a traditional wrap that you've done before. But I think once you get used to the bobbin holder, you're going to be amazed at how much less pain you'll be in and how much easier it is. And also you will get an amazingly tight wrap. But that's up to you. You can experiment with all this, as a matter of fact. But I'm going to just do it the way that I do it. And there's other ways to do it. But this is what I do. And I hope it'll be helpful. So your bobbin holder is all set to go. You've watched another tutorial that I have posted on my YouTube channel. And that's all set. The next thing you want to do is put your mandrel pin into the chuck here. Now your kit comes with two mandrel pins. One of them is a traditional long pin, actually forming mandrel pin, and the other is a Sakakeni Van Hosen forming mandrel pin. And by the way, I sell these separately and in combination and in kits and all kinds of variations on my website. But your kit does come with two of them, and feel free to experiment with them separately as forming mandrels. I'm going to use the Sakakeni pin. It's only because it's what I'm used to. So I'm going to insert it into the chuck. And as you can see, initially it's kind of loose. You want to tighten it by putting one hand on the chuck and the other hand on the crank, and you're going to turn the crank clockwise. That'll make this very tight. The next thing, of course, you want to do is put your blank onto the mandrel pin. And how you attach the thread at the very beginning is up to you. There's ways to do this. There's 3 or 4 I'm aware of. I'm just going to do the one that I do, and that's to take the thread and put it into the butt of the reed and then just slide it onto the mandrel pin and pull out a little slack and then put it on there pretty tightly. I don't go all the way to the hilt on the Sakakeni pin, only because my Heckle-Bockle has a very thin tip, and I want to allow some little room for reaming. So I don't want to go on the bocal too far. You're going to take your bobbin holder and put it in my case, my strong hand, which is my right hand. And you can do whatever. And your opposite hand will operate the crank. And as far as the bobbin holder goes, and I mentioned this in the other tutorial, you place it so that it's at the butt of the thumb and the bottom 2 or 3 fingers. And just by squeezing it slightly, you can get an amazing amount of tension on that thread. You will be surprised. And then you can just start to wrap your reed in the way that you normally do, whatever that is. So let's get started. Here we go. Now, you might have a different way to start. I'm not as fussy about having the most elegant looking, or I'm not even that good at it, maybe. Most elegant, perfect looking Turk's head, but you can do that. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go real far with this, and you can fast forward or whatever you want to do, or stop, because you kind of know what's coming. But the main thing is, just with a little bit of squeeze at the back, you can pull that thread and it just will not move. And it's just amazingly tight. I just was shocked when I first used it, how tightly I could make a wrap and how much easier it was. So I'm just going to go ahead and maybe not make the most perfect Turk's head here, just for the sake of time, because if you want a real nice one, you want to go real slow and carefully and space the threads out so that you get a nice even wrap. And sometimes I don't even bother until I get a little farther along, but that's up to you. Everybody's different. I've seen some of the ugliest Turk's head or whatever on some reeds of players that are amazing players. And I've seen some people that have the most beautiful looking reeds that, well, I won't say more. Okay, so once again, you're pulling on the bobbin, you're pulling it backwards as you wrap, and I'm just going to go a little faster here so that you can be done with this thing. And if you want a real small wrap, that's fine, because these are pretty tight. Oh, and by the way, normally you might put some glue before you start wrapping. I meant to mention that earlier. I do. It's just for the sake of this video, I didn't bother to do that. But if you want to put some glue around the bottom wire before you start, I actually think that's recommended. And by the way, you want to keep this thing out of the way. Okay. Now, just for the sake of it, I'll see if I can be a little more careful. My age, it doesn't seem as important as it used to, but sometimes I see some reeds that are just gorgeous looking, like little jewels. It is kind of cool. But anyway, so you keep going and do what you can to make whatever type of Turk's head you want. Some people like a really big one. Some people like not such a big one. Starting to look a little better. And I'm sure there's some of you that can do a much better job than this. I'm just trying to show you how it's done and not take up too much of your time. So. But once again, you can get a lot of tension on this, and it'll help your reed stabilize if you have a nice firm Turk's head, and it won't come loose. And again, I recommend putting some glue on before you start. Always a good idea, in my opinion, but it's up to you. Okay, I'm just going to finish this up. It's not the best looking thing, but it's good enough for me anyway. And then this part you can, I had one teacher that really wanted this part to be really tight. So, I had another teacher that said it really didn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I had another teacher that didn't even put a Turk's in. He just played it with wires, and he was an amazing player. So, whatever. Okay, so now this part you can do, there's a lot of fancy knots and stuff. Believe it or not, I don't get into that anymore. I used to. I just kind of tension this, press that down. That's what I do. And then I cut it. And then you can cut the bottom off as well. So there. You have your Turk's head. Now, if you have a whole set of these pins, hex-based pins, maybe you've purchased from me, or your own pins, you can leave it on there and put it in your drying rack. You know, you can glue it and whatever. But if you only have a couple pins, it is pretty tight on here, I must say. So what I do is kind of turn it clockwise and pull it right off. Now, if you probably won't have glued it when it's on the machine, but if you did, you can always grab it at the bottom. Oh, by the way, you can pull that out. You don't need that anymore, right? Okay. You can pull that out and you can grab it at the bottom, turn it clockwise, and pull your reed off. Okay, well, I hope that helps. Feel free to put your own video up if you find with other ways to use this, but my arm is just not tired. That's not sore. My fingers aren't cut into from the thread, especially if you're doing 10 of these reeds. It's really pretty good. Okay, thank you for watching. Send any questions along that you want to my email address on my website. All right, enjoy.